Hello, everybody, and welcome to Off the Rack. I'm Sal.
And I'm Tiffany.
We're in a different location today, you may notice, and that's actually very important to address at the top of the show, because we're snowed in.
Yes.
And we can't get to the studio right now.
No.
So we're actually on location at Tiffany's set from the Twitch stream.
Ooh.
Yeah. So if you like gaming, if you like Twitch streams, go over to twitch.tv/ComicPOP on Tuesdays and Sundays and watch this young lady play video games. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. So oh, it's named C now.
Ooh. Sorry about that. That was my fault.
There.
That was totally my fault.
Mm-hmm. Click there.
Oh.
Anywhere.
Oh, sure.
All right, so yeah, we got a number of books to get into. Obviously, if you're not familiar with this show, we review, recap comics that came out this past week, and then let you know what we thought about them, and then give you recommendations of books that come out this week we think you should pick up.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a lot of books that are coming out this week that we think you should pick up, but we're still going to talk about those books.
Yeah, end of the year is always weird. It's always a crapshoot.
It is quite a crapshoot.
Well, I mean, like, you never know how many books they're actually going to, you know, have coming out, simply because of the fact that it's like sometimes they're just gearing up and like they're just kind of stalling until the next year rolls in. So
yeah,
we're coming to that point in time.
It's true. It's true. So I didn't have a lot of books this week, but I did read a couple of books that I said I wasn't really keen on, wasn't really huge on.
Right.
And so we're gonna talk about them.
Sure.
So let's jump into it.
That sounds good.
First thing I want to talk about is X-Force, because I read the third issue? I think it's the second one. Yeah, second issue of X-Force. And in the wake of X-Force number 1, I found that, when I looked it up, because, okay, so X-Force number 1, obviously it's like the more hard-edged Black Ops. It's the one of the few that isn't written by Hickman in any way.
Yeah, and you said you were like, you were good. You didn't.
I was good. I didn't need any more. Mostly because I found it was like kind of complicating the narrative, because it was not written by Hickman, and it was doing things that Hickman clearly didn't either approve of or know about.
Right.
And it was contradicting things that were happening, and so the question was like, when did it happen? Like, maybe this happens a little later in the time frame. It didn't.
Okay.
It was literally just that he kind of had free reign, so Hickman just kind of said, yeah, just do whatever you want. And it's obvious that's the case, but it also has effects throughout the whole book.
It has a big effect.
Yeah, Xavier was assassinated by a rogue squadron, if you will, of Black Ops folks, pro-human, anti-mutant people who have been used. Domino infiltrated them. They kept her under ice, ripped her skin off, put them on these people, and sent them out to kill the X-Men.
Right.
And so they were lucky.
Right.
And so they got a lucky shot off that killed Xavier. And everyone is like, what are we going to do about Xavier? And I'm like, wasn't there a whole thing about redundancies and not worrying about that? Wouldn't Xavier be like not worried about that? Like, the fact that Xavier was so cavalier made me think like, oh, it's because he knows he can't die. So wouldn't it be kind of stupid to kill him like within the first issue of the latest book?
Yeah.
Because like, number 1, who cares? Number 2, you've killed Death. Number 3, you kind of like, you just brought Xavier back from death like not too long ago anyway, and now you're gonna kill him again. It just felt like, oh my god, like we just got this breath of fresh air from this recent thing. Anyway, X-Force number 2 is Wolverine's mad. He was mad in the first issue.
Now he's really mad.
Now he's really mad. He wasn't mad in any of the other books, particularly the ones written by Hickman, but let's forget that for a while. And so he's going to go hunting and go get the guys that got him. He goes off the reservation. He doesn't ask the Quiet Council about it. He just goes, and nobody cares, and nobody has any problem with it. He teams up with Quentin Quire, who's a jerk and doesn't like him, because that was their relationship that the writer remembered before Hawks and Pox. And so the two of them infiltrate the organization. They torture and mutilate people. And they find out that, like, they're grown. Like, the assassins, they're, like, clone things. They're, like, hodgepodges. They're not, like, people. And,
I'm sure they would disagree with that.
Right, well, they're not, though. They're, like, they're like Frankensteins.
Okay.
And Quire finds Domino.
Oh.
That was the last page reveal. Like, oh, my God. She's the thing that everyone thought. The book, if it were the only X-Men book, it would be kind of fun. Because it reads very much like, in Marvel Universe kind of X-Men story. The art is fine. The story is, engaging.
Right.
Like, superficially speaking, like, Xavier's been assassinated and Wolverine is going to go on a rampage to find out what's going on. Meanwhile, Magneto and Jean Grey are trying to figure out if and when they can bring Xavier back. And it's like, what do you mean if? And what occurred to me recently upon thinking about this book, I was like, Moira isn't involved in any of this because they don't know about Moira.
Right.
So obviously this must be part of Moira's thing.
Right.
She must know that there's a blip in the history where Xavier gets assassinated and then he's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess that's also not really a problem, except for the fact that this writer just gets to do whatever they want and Hickman has to pick up the pieces afterwards.
Unless it is part of Hickman's plan. Like,
right.
Maybe, like, the point is, like, you can do what you want as long as by the end of it you're here.
Right. And if that's the case...
As long as you're here and it makes sense, go for it.
And if that's the case, like, more power to you, I guess. But, like, all the other books are kind of in lockstep with whatever this mission statement is. And this one, you can tell because of how different it is from everything else.
Yeah.
It's not... It's just not part of the narrative. Like, there are other books that are more important to this than X-Force, and X-Force should probably be the most important next to X-Men.
Right.
X-Men, X-Force, and the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Fallen Angel's way down there. But no, it's not.
Way down.
It just felt like meh.
Okay.
And so I gave it another shot, and I was like, let's see how it goes. And it really is going another direction. I liked it better than Fallen Angels.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's clearly just doing its own thing in a time when we really can't afford to do that, because right before Hickman took over, they were doing their own thing, and people were like, either they liked it or they didn't like it.
Right.
But they were just happy that the X-Men felt like they mattered.
Yeah.
And then it didn't matter because Hickman just threw it away.
It's weird because the events that happened in the first issue seem so important.
Yes! That's the thing, is that you were like, oh my god.
Right, and so, like, I don't know if it's maybe this series won't end up being important, but that, like, potentially none of the series will end up being the most important. And maybe what it is that, like,
they're all miniseries anyway.
Right, but perhaps they make a quilt of importance, essentially. It's like, without one of them, there's a hole in it.
There's no question in my mind that, like, there are moments in this that will be used in Hickman's grand opus.
Right.
It could be that they're like, we're going to kill Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
So the X-Men are defenseless against Apocalypse.
Right.
Because Moira's like, no, it needs to be that you don't have Xavier with you. Like, I tricked Xavier into thinking that, like, he can't die and that no one else, like, that they all needed him.
Yeah.
But it turns out that's their greatest strength is having no Xavier.
Or it could be something that,
Or only Magneto could beat Apocalypse.
Right, or I was going to say, or maybe Apocalypse isn't as knowledgeable about the plan overall as we think he may or may not be.
Yeah.
And that, like, perhaps what it is that, like, Apocalypse needs to take certain steps, but then Xavier will stop him.
Right.
And so, like, Apocalypse needs to believe that he's off the board.
Exactly. I would imagine that maybe Xavier's already back, and he's just sitting in Moira's secret room, and the two of them are just planning the next thing. And, like, they're sowing the seeds in their minds using Xavier's powers of, like, can we bring them back? I know we all thought you could bring them back, but can we really? And it's he's sowing the seeds of doubt so they don't bring him back because he's got work to do.
Right.
That would be really cool. That's more credit than I think this book deserves.
Again, I think the question does come into how would he get the memories? Because, like, Xavier's the one that then gives them their memories back using Cerebro, and so it's like...
So you're only going to get the backed up memories and not, like, real-time memories.
But who's going to put them in?
Right.
It would have to be someone like Jean, and
she's not up to the task.
She may not be up to the task, and also, presumably we saw that Cerebro was kind of ruined.
Right, but in this issue, they actually found that there are multiple Cerebros.
Which makes sense.
They go get one, and it's like, it's plugged into Krakoa. Yeah.
Let's make this island more empowered.
Right.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
This crazy sex-driven island.
I know.
Like, literally sex-driven.
Literally. But yeah, this is my last X-Force book.
Really?
That's a big pass for me.
All
I
right.
can't expect, because, like, Wolverine, right? Like, I know that we always go back to Wolverine, but he is the most popular X-Man, and it's like...
Certainly.
For me, I'm like, he's happy. In Hickman's, interpretation. I would like to see why and where that goes. But if we're just going to get a hand-wavy... No, he's not. He's back to being Wolverine. in this, and there's no progression of these characters.
Maybe he's a different Wolverine.
That would be really stupid.
There are maybe
multiples.
Xavier already broke the code. And
that would be really annoying
multiples.
because if that's the case, do that then. Make that the story.
Right.
Don't make that explanations for why there are plot holes in your grand opus.
Yeah, that's fair.
But pass.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to take this opportunity just to also mention that this show is sponsored. So out there in the people who are watching the show live, this episode is brought to you by you out there who are watching the show live. If you use the super chats, you can ask a question or make a comment on this show in real time. We will answer it, and those proceeds go directly into the engine of ComicPOP, keeping all the lights on or allowing us to be able to do this here when we can't get to the studio. But that studio is there, and it's still there waiting for us when we get back there tomorrow. So, thank you very much for our sponsors out there, and we're going to thank Masaj Madej, who says, cheers. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I may have mispronounced your name. I'm sure I did, but I thank you very much for your help.
Yeah.
From there, there's more. What else we got?
Okay, let's I don't even know where to start here. I think I know where I'm gonna start. Hang on, I can do this.
Yeah.
Oh, transitions!
Whoa.
I've done it. Just check it out. So Justice League Dark number 17 came out, The Witching Moor Part 4 by James Tynion the fourth, with art by Javi Fernandez.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm so sorry if I wrecked that. Overall, we know that last time we left Wonder Woman, she went and visited the moon. Well, they got the the not real moon, but the witching plane thing of the moon where Witchfire is post the big battle.
Yes.
With Hecate. But Circe has returned in Wonder Woman's body.
Oh.
And so basically thanks to the Year of the Villain, the heroes are being taken down from the inside out, essentially.
Right.
Swamp Thing was on the hunt to find out what was going on. He ran into the Floronic Man, which then he gave him the rot, and so Swamp Thing is like a pile of mush.
Yeah.
So and then don't forget that Man-Bat was convinced, or he was enthralled to believe that he should prove to everybody that he's better, or he's better than he really is.
Right.
So he was like, oh, check it out, I used this mutation thing and I've got 12 mouths.
Mm-hmm.
So they were dealing with that.
Oh, that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. So literally everybody's they're not having a good time. So basically this opens up with what's Circe all about? Let's get a little history on her. We learn about how she was one of the most beautiful women in the world, said to be the daughter of the sun kind of thing, and so she was betrothed to some king or some prince,
sure,
essentially, and so he married her, and then turned out to be he was a beast. And so, she killed him.
Oh.
And then,
a literal one, or?
No, he just,
he was just a jerk.
Yeah. And so, she killed him, and then his family and his people, retaliated against her, calling her a witch, and she made a run for it. And by run for it, I mean she got in her boat and she left.
Yeah.
And she heads off, essentially, by the way, this art is really spectacular. I just want to point that out.
Sure.
She's this hauntingly beautiful woman who's also, terrifyingly portrayed. But she is on the seas for days and days and days and has no food, no water, and the only thing that keeps her going is her desire for vengeance. And so what she'll do is she'll chant the names of those who have wronged her as though it were a spell, and she does it over and over and over again until an island comes before her and Hecate is there. And Hecate's like, hey, you called for me. And she's like,
I guess I did.
I mean, I know who
Your
you
hate
are.
called for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's just cool. She's like, what will you give me for this power? And she's like, Circe says something really badass. She's like, I've got nothing to give but my spite that lives inside of me, and I will not give that away.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I deserve this power, just give it to me. And Hecate's like, right on.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I will absolutely do that. So she gives her the power, and essentially she goes back, turns everybody into animals, as Circe is known to do.
Yes.
And gets her vengeance. And
sure.
So then we cut back. We're like, hey, you got a little taste of what Circe's all about? Right.
Okay,
she's vengeful.
Right.
Don't wrong her, essentially. Wonder Woman, who is possessed by Circe, takes the Eclipso Diamond and leaves with Dr. Fate and Zatanna to go back up and find what happened post Man-Bat freaking out.
Yeah.
And Constantine is there, Bobo is there, Khalid is there, the other Dr. Fate. And they're like, Constantine's like, hey, yeah, no, he's totally under magical influence there, so let's just keep, Kirk out for right now whilst we deal with some stuff. Meanwhile, Bobo updates everybody on what happened with Swamp Thing, and he's got like this little pile of green in his hand. And
that's all Swamp Thing is
now.
Yeah,
it's just like, ta-da! And like, meanwhile, Wonder Woman is like enraptured or enthralled by this diamond. Because like, she is Cersei, and so like, she still like craves more power.
Sure.
And Eclipso has quite a bit of power.
Yes.
And so like, Bobo's like, like, hey, so he's like not much left of him, all that, and like, Diana's like, oh yeah, no, that's cool. Sorry we lost such a powerhouse. Is Jason Blood available or something? I don't know.
Yeah. Am I boring you here, Wonder Woman?
Right, and Bobo's like, oh yeah, no, that's cool. I'll go find out about that. Zatanna, can I talk to you like over here, like in the corner or something? Like maybe we could talk about like phone numbers and stuff like that. By the way, she's totally messed up.
Right.
Like immediately calls.
I need you to bind Wonder Woman right now.
Yeah, like I need you to take care of this. Like you got to stop her from doing whatever it is that she thinks she's gonna do, because that's not Wonder Woman. I can tell you that right now.
Sure.
Like that's not her. So, he's like, we got the lasso around here, we'll figure the whole thing out. Zatanna tries to do that. She totally, like, is like, all right, fine. Like, at first she's like, I don't know, Bobo, you kind of been messing up lately. And then, like, he's like, I'm not kidding around with this one.
I'm still on the team.
So she attempts to do it immediately. Diana reveals that she's Cersei by being like, oh, your spells are so cute. I used to love how your dad would say them, that kind of thing, whatever. And then she makes Zatanna's mouth go away.
Oh, no.
Because that's, like, a classic way to kind of alleviate Zatanna's powers, essentially.
Sure.
Then she turns Bobo into a chimp. She removes his gift of knowledge and language. And she's like, okay, cool. Here we go. I'm gonna basically like take everybody down. And like Dr. Fate's there, and he's like, nah, but like you really can't like contest with me, Khalid, and Constantine here.
Sure.
Like we're all like here. And she's like, yeah, but I'm not alone.
Oh no.
I brought my party with me, my posse.
Yeah.
So to speak. Nobody says that anymore, but she does that anyway, essentially. For some reason, everybody attacks those who don't have powers necessarily, and not everybody, but like in particular, the Floronic Man's like, haha, I'll take out.
Monkey.
Yeah, I'm like he's a chimp, man. Like,
yeah, they're pretty dangerous and formidable creatures, but
yeah, but you're
if you're a little OP,
you're like a walking tree man with flowers. I think you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Constantine and Papa Midnight, of course, have like a moment for themselves, of course.
Cool.
And then we see Zatanna do something pretty badass. And it is graphic, so I'm not going to make it super large here. But she grabs like a knife and she cuts where her mouth should be so that she can use magic. And she calls away the Eclipso Stone back to where it was.
Nice.
So if they want to go in there again, they have to get through all the traps and all the whatever to get down to get it. And then she has everybody flee to the underground, essentially.
Right.
She's like we gotta retreat. We have to get out of here. And so basically the entire Justice League Dark team falls back. Diana's stuck on the moon.
Yes.
She's hanging out there with Witchfire, and she's like, I need to get back. And she's like, listen, like, yeah, there's no way to do that. Like, he couldn't do that when Hecate was here. Why do you think he can do it now?
Yeah.
And, like, Witchfire's like, at least it can't get any worse.
Oh,
like, it can't.
Why would you say that?
Right? Like, never say that. No matter what situation you're in, you can't. And then, of course, the upside down man appears and says, like, it can always get worse.
Yay.
And it's indicated that the next chapter will be a deal with the devil.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, of course. Like, the question is, like, who's better, the devil you know or the devil you don't? And, like, we're going to find out about this, which is funny. Because how they got rid of Hecate was to make a deal with Cersei,
right?
Which got them into this mess in the first place by like basically giving her to the Upside Down Man.
Yeah.
And now they're seemingly going to make a deal with the Upside Down Man to deal with Cersei. And
cool.
I'm like, and who are you going to make a deal with to deal with this?
Yeah, exactly. You need to know how to beat that first. But then never mind. That sounds cool. That's fun.
It is a cool book. I do like that the team is like seemingly making some of the same mistakes that they've made in the past, because like they really haven't learned anything. Yet. Like there hasn't been that lesson yet. This would be the lesson time period. But they do have to deal with it. So how are you going to function with this? And who knows what will happen post Year of the Villain.
That's cool.
So there you go.
Yeah.
It's still a recommend for me. I've loved Tynan's work on this. So yeah.
Price8040 in the Super Chats just said, don't know if you've read Pun 2099, but it was all right. Had some actual cyberpunk ideas and a Yggdrasil tree made of people. It's pretty cool. By the way, 2099, big epic maybe thing from Marvel. They just launched Punisher 2099. I know 2099 Alpha came out. I'm good as far as 2099 goes. I'm glad that 2099 at least addressed the cyberpunk aspect.
Right.
Because if anyone's going to, it's going to be Spider-Man. But if anyone else is going to, it's going to be Ghost Rider. But if anybody else is going to, it should probably be Ravage. But if anybody else is going to, then I guess maybe Hulk. But after that, possibly Punisher.
Right.
So I'm glad that at least one of those is doing it.
Right. And honestly, I did read a 2099 book, and we'll talk about it later.
All right. Cool. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about New Mutants number 3?
Sure.
2? I don't remember what issue.
It's
2.
2.
New Mutants number 2 was, of course, excellent, as usual. But when I say excellent, I mean, like, it does what it doesn't pull the rug out from under you or trick you into thinking it's one thing or another. It's just the same, only more. I know a lot of people were really excited that the space lawyer from the old run was going to be here. He's only in it for a second or two. He's terrible and he fails. Of course,
shocking.
I know. New Mutants number 2, written by Jonathan Hickman with art by I don't remember, but
I
they're
didn't
great.
get to that page, but you know.
Yeah, it's great. Basically what happens is...
I always want to say Ivan Rice, but it's not.
Yeah, but it's not. No.
It's not that at all, but, like, it's hard to have that last name. Rod Rice.
Rod Rice, thank you.
He literally sounds like a comic book character.
I know, Rod Rice. By the way, Rod Rice, Rod Reese, same exact quality art as the previous issue. No skips, no slips, no nothing.
That's great.
The New Mutants are convicted of crimes against the Shi'ar Empire. They're sentenced. And
by the Shi'ar Space Wizard.
By the Shi'ar Space Wizard, judge or whatever. They are, of course, remanded into the custody of the Imperial Guard, who, of course, in charge is Smasher, who is married to Cannonball. Hickman creation Smasher. Of course, she's going to show up. Sure. But Cannonball's here. I thought we were going to be like, okay, so they're going to have to break out of the prison, and then the next issue will be them still going, because then they'll be on the run from the Shi'ar Empire, but they're going to go, because the whole point is that New Mutants is about the original team being like, this is great, we're in paradise, but where's Cannonball? We need to bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
And Sunspot being like, I'm single, rich, beautiful, and happy, and now I'm also here on Krakoa. There's no way that Sam is happy being married and in space. So they actually wind up circumventing an entire series of books by just having Smasher and Cannonball go pick them up.
Right.
And Sam looks great, and then they're both happy, and they have a kid, and Sam's like, what's going on, guys? Listen, we figured it out. You're going to be under our custody, and we're going to bring you to your, prison or whatever.
Okay.
The reality is, we're going to figure it. We're going to fix it for you.
Okay.
So they do. And Sunspot's miserable and angry because Cannonball is thriving being married and away from him.
Right.
As opposed to being miserable, which is what he was hoping for. Smasher then gives him Sunspot a really hard time, punches him in the face, because she's like, you pulled me away from my kid.
Yeah.
You got yourselves arrested, and you're not greeting my husband, your best friend, with enough jubilance for my liking.
Right.
Which I really appreciate. I found that kind of fun. It's very interesting because you're expecting, from her perspective, she's like, my husband's feelings matter to me, and you're being selfish.
Right. I love this panel.
I know, isn't it great?
It's just after that full color, kind of monochromatic coloring there, and then just
no color, just red.
Just great.
Yeah,
just so good.
Ultimately, the whole thing is that Smasher fixes their problem, but she's also been charged by the Magister to go fix it.
Right.
To go fix this problem they have. And so she's like, well, since you're technically under my care, by the way, all the charges are dropped, all that stuff, but we need you on an adventure.
Right.
So the New Mutants and Smasher and Cannonball are all teamed up to go deal with that. Meanwhile, Gladiator is telling the daughter of Xavier and Lilandra, listen, you gotta be in charge now, because I gotta run the Imperial Guard. I don't have time for this. So she ascends to the role her mother occupied. And that's kind of fun.
It's weird because it's I really was with you on the I thought this was going to be a jailbreak comic, and then it's nope, that's not where it's going.
No, it will be one adventure after the next, out of the frying pan into the fire kind of situation, but yeah,
exactly. I haven't seen her in a while.
So not since the Kelly Thompson book.
Since she was an egg.
Right, not since she was an egg. But the fact that Hickman's writing it, the fact that she's here, the fact that she's going to be in charge of the Shi'ar Empire.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Well, first they have to get past.
Well, no, she has to be trained to be like a total badass and a big bitch.
Yeah.
So who better than Deathbird? Who you may remember from a trading card.
Right. I think she was also in the
She was in the Rogan Gambit book, which is like, what? But yeah, so Deathbird's in the book too. But yeah, clearly this is going to be like, this is Hickman stealth sowing seeds while also being like, here's a wacky fun space adventure story.
Right.
But I'm doing something.
Right.
Which is what I expected from all the books. Which
huge...
is why all the books are not wowing me.
Okay.
But some of them are, like
some
this
of them,
one.
A few of them are.
Because this one's doing a good job of being like, hey, here's a thing. Here's a thing. But also it's part of this other thing. That's all I asked. That's all that was promised from Hawks and Pox.
Yes.
Also X-Force. And Fallen Angels. Anyway, I loved New Mutants. I still enjoyed it. And I'm excited for the new dynamic. You know, the team is kind of like falling in line. They're kind of like not really doing much. And with the introduction of Smasher and them cutting to the chase and being done with their mission, the fact is Sam's not going to want to go back to Krakoa.
No.
He's like, I'm happy. I have a kid.
What does it matter?
My wife and child are not mutants. Why would I want to do that?
Exactly.
And that's going to be great because that's exactly what I want. I want challenge to Krakoa because all the mutants are like, right. I mean, I've had a hard enough time. I deserve paradise forever and to not be able to die. Right. Yeah, let's do this. And other people being like, you're going to miss beer.
Yeah.
Or you're going to miss your friends. Or the fact that you're actually not really a separate race.
Yeah.
Shut up. But I dug it. And you might as well. So check it out.
Nice. Awesome.
Any others? No. Okay. So you read...
I read like so many books, so I'm going to kind of rapid fire through a few of them because some of them are more independent, and so I know that we don't have to go too deep into those. But I will say that I did read John Constantine, Hellblazer by Simon Spurrier with art by Aaron Campbell.
Yes.
Which is just a really great, gritty look to it. This book is graphic. I will warn you about that.
Okay.
This is not for younger readers. I'm just going to say it out loud because it is a Vertigo book dressed in a black label.
Is it a black label book too?
Yeah.
I thought it was just a Sandman Universe book, but yeah.
Oh no, you're right. No, it is. It's a Sandman Universe black label book.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it has 2 different monikers. It's a DC black label Sandman Universe, ages 17 plus, John Constantine Hellblazer.
What the crap? You know, when DC inevitably brings back Vertigo, they're going to have a hell of a time figuring out what was and what wasn't. Because, like, when they inevitably drop the Black Label line entirely, they're not going to drop all the books. I'm just saying, like, when DC eventually gets a new head, and they go, like, okay, so Young Animal, Wonder Comics, Black Label, Sandman Universe... This is all bullshit. We're going to have to align this and get back to our roots. And when they do, they're going to have a hell of a time aligning all these damn books under one label.
I know.
Or not.
No, I agree.
But anyway, I'm glad to hear that Constantine is doing its own thing.
And it really is. It is an exceptional book, and it really, again, feels like Vertigo. Much like I said, Dollhouse had that Vertigo feel.
Yeah.
And again, because...
Hill House books.
Yes, but because, like... Well, it's Dollhouse, in particular, that book, because Mike Carey was working on it, who wrote Lucifer, again, that real Vertigo feel, and honestly, Hellblazer should have that feel. Yeah. And, like, we are definitely getting back to that gritty nature that he should have in a book, which I feel like we haven't really seen necessarily in a while. No. We're getting beautiful pages like this.
Yeah.
Where we see like these angels, which to me had an almost Evangelion sort of look to them, where like there's these horrible, beautiful creatures.
They're supposed to be angels, but they're also like images of horror.
Yeah, exactly. Don't forget Constantine came back from the past as well, and we will be dealing with that at some point. But right now, Constantine's kind of just acclimating himself to where he is.
Okay.
And so like there's like crazy stuff going on, but like naturally, John's at a pub getting himself thrown out because of the fact that he told a bad joke.
Okay.
We're introduced to a character named Nat, who is a bouncer for the club, essentially. She hilariously calls this individual Frodo and tells him to, go back to the Shire. Really, liked the lived-in feel of this world in general. she basically reminds him that he's in 2019 and things are different from when.
That's really cool because it's like the Constantine you remember that everyone's trying to get back to is Constantine a product of like the late 80s.
Exactly. And so like he's in a world where like people use vape pens and like all this stuff, and she's using one meanwhile he's smoking. Like, she's like, "You've been gone for a while? You've been like overseas or something?" Because and he's like, "How could you tell?" And like she knocks all the reasons why, like, you know, it's incorrect. That, like, you know, like, it's 2019, you're smoking a cigarette, you picked an artisanal microbrewery full of hipsters to tell your off-color comedy.
Right.
Like, he just, all these things, he just doesn't understand how the world works around him necessarily.
Sure.
So, like, that said, like, she is a fun-loving, not fun-loving, but, like, an easier-going individual who's, like, there's something about him, like, that's kind of cool.
Okay.
Gentleman shows up, by the name of Barry the Traffic, and he's got
boils or something.
Yeah, it's real bad. He's a pox essentially, and like John said, it was gonna get better. Don't worry, it's gonna get better. I fixed it for you.
No, and
not really. He ends up attacking John. Nat steps in, takes him down. The cops are gonna show up. He's like, no cops. And he's like, all right, you better get going. You better not stick around here.
Yeah.
So John goes about like his day. He gets attacked by a couple of hoods who are part of a drug ring, essentially. Like, there's a guy who we saw at the beginning who is selling drugs.
Okay.
And he's also a very specific word that I can't remember what it was, but is a real thing. Like, a real thing in, like, mythology and lore. And if I can find it, I will tell you what it is. I can't. He's a Haruspex.
Oh.
He uses entrails to see what's going on.
Does he eat them? Or
no.
does he just, like, throw them on the floor?
He throws them on the floor and then,
like bones?
And then, like, reads them. Yeah. And then, like, can see images within
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Recently I heard of that. Yeah.
That's weird.
That's really weird. Why did I hear that recently?
Yeah, what is going on with that?
Anyway,
basically, every time something goes down in this one park, these angels show up and, like, mess stuff up. And he's like, I need to bring in the big guns here. So he's like, we got to bring in, like, someone like Constantine. They bring him in, and basically he forces him to do his dirty work for him. We're introduced to a kid who is part of this gang or would like to be a part of this gang, but he's mute. And so, like, the guy who's in charge of everything, who speaks in a really bizarre way. And so, like, let's be honest, guys, I'm not British at all.
Yeah.
And Spurrier writes with the vernacular.
Okay.
And so there are things that are going over my head, but you kind of get the feel for what's going on.
Sure.
Certainly you could look up some stuff, I'm sure, but some of it I'm just like, I kind of think I know what you're talking about there, but I'm just going to keep going because I don't want to break up the flow.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So anyway, one kid he sends off to do an initiation to go kill some gang members, and the other kid who's mute, he's like, I don't want him part of my gang anyway. He threatens to kill him. Instead, if John doesn't help. John tries to pretend like, it doesn't matter, I don't care, whatever. But at the end of the day, he totally does it. The kid drives him to the park where they find like a homeless guy who for a moment
suspiciously looks like Alan Moore.
Well, yes, he definitely looks like that, but he also looks like I think the Green or whatever from Sandman.
Oh.
For a second, it's not him at all. But yes, he also looks like Alan Moore. But he's actually he's an old man. He's a racist. It's not good.
Oh.
Like John's like talking to him. He's like, oh, we gotta talk to the locals. You gotta find out what's going on, what's in the park. And the guy immediately reveals that he's like kind of crazy and also racist.
Sure.
John's like, this is not helping my cause and my situation here with this kid. So anyway, some like guy who's like hooked on crack, which is what they sell, is like wandering around like asking to get more from the Reboys, who is the gang.
Right.
He recently like basically he killed a woman. He like punched her really hard, and he's like, oh, I think I punched her too hard, but anyway, I need more crack. I need more like of it. Instead, the angels show up, but like they don't do their normal thing, which is to like kill the person and then skin them.
Oh, okay, that's their usual
and then
MO.
make them like kind of melt away into nothingness. Instead, they inject him with like what looks like fleas.
Oh. And
then like little tiny demons burst out of his skin, like killing him, and it's real messed up.
Okay.
Like it's not good.
No.
Again, I'm not going to necessarily like show that here. The guy in charge of everything is kind of watching all of this and like being like something's different, and it could be because Constantine is there.
Yeah.
I think Philip, who is the mute kid, is with him, who like wants to kind of jump in and help, and Constantine's like, this is not the time. The time now is to watch and see what they do.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out how to fix it.
Yeah.
Because John probably doesn't have the answer now anyway. We check in on a weird sex party, because like apparently 2019 is the year of the weird sex party in comics. And these folk are underground, and they're all wearing creepy animal masks.
Oh, their eyes wide shutting it up.
Yeah, except they're talking about like doing things that you should not be doing with obviously bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is in fact the Prime Minister.
It's pretty topical.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty topical. And then we see a decapitated man leaving, who kind of looks like old John Constantine, but he's in shadow, and so
we don't get it.
We're not certain about that. That said, this is feeling more and more like a Vertigo book, which I love, honestly, because we need that. Like you said, though, like when they inevitably drop the black label of it, because right now this book is split between it's part of the Sandman universe and it is part of the Black Label universe.
Which isn't really a universe, it's just a label.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the Sandman...
well, because like what is that? Like what is a Black Label versus a Sandman universe book?
Right, and like Sandman universe, we have seen some more adult themes in there as well, but I don't know if they're not putting the black label on it so they can count it as mature.
I think that's their way of doing it without putting like a rating on it.
Right, but what is funny to me is that like there's been such editorial on like other black label books. This book has graphic words, graphic images, and like it's fine.
But it doesn't say Batman on it, though.
Right, and that's what's so funny about it. Is I'm like, well, at least they're not fully pulling the teeth out of this book.
Right, and I guarantee you it's not for lack of trying. I think it's just because they didn't notice it.
Probably, because
like they've really displayed that they really just don't pay attention to things without it being like part of the bottom line. Constantine's not part of the plan.
No, he's not, but he will be having that young adult book.
Yes, and when that happens, I'll bet they'll be like, oh!
That's my concern, too, because like this book is everything it should be. Is Spurrier pushing the envelope? I'm sure he is. I think he's pushing it a little harder than...
I bet he is, because he's like, he's Johnny Depping it up.
Right.
See, in Pirates of the Caribbean, you might have noticed that Captain Jack Sparrow had like 3 golden teeth. Well, what happened was, he put in I think 20 golden teeth or 10 golden teeth or something like that when he first showed up for set. And they were like, how about like 3?
Right.
And, or how about 5? And he was like, okay, because all he wanted was 3, but he knew if he asked for 1, they would have been like, no. So it's better to like ask for forgiveness than permission. In this case, he's like, I gotta go hard.
Yeah.
So that when they tell me to dial it back, it'll be like, okay, well, I'll go back to where I probably wanted to write in the first place.
Yeah, no, I agree. So like, it's good. I just hope it's not neutered entirely. I'm like slightly concerned if he pushes too hard.
It's gonna be a harder rebound.
That said, between this and The Dreaming, I prefer Spurrier's Hellblazer universe too.
Well, Dreaming felt like more of an imitation than it felt like a real authentic continuation.
Right, and I think part of that, of course, is because it's like the bulk of what we know of Sandman, although there is a Dreaming series not written by Gaiman.
Right.
But the bulk of what we think of when we think of dealing with the characters that we've seen in The Dreaming are from Neil Gaiman, and so you're comparing it simply to one writer.
Yeah.
Constantine's written by several writers, and like a lot
varying levels of competence.
And so like he's just the next one in the line. Yeah. So it just feels better.
No, that's fair. Somebody in the chat asked about the question. We talked about it last episode, but I wanted to mention it because it is a Black Label book.
Yep.
The question could easily have not been a Black Label book. There's nothing about it that is in any way more or less offensive, and it doesn't warrant the Black Label title, except that I think it's like an oversized printing.
Right.
I bought it digitally, so I have no idea whether it's like big or not. But the question was cool, but in no way representative of what the Black Label line is able to achieve.
Right, and I do wonder...
That's so frustrating, because it's like, just put it out.
It is, but I'm wondering if they're now... Because Black Label seems to be a catch-all, and so I'm wondering if the question wouldn't have been something more of an Elseworlds sort of thing. Or like they want to do an out-of-continuity thing, where it's like, this doesn't have to be in continuity.
Well, I think it's definitely that, but also I think because the question is technically still dead, I don't know what their situation is with him.
Right.
But it is also very much a continuation of the original run. Like the last run.
Okay.
And so it could be their way of being like, yeah, it's not in continuity, but it's also I wanted to do this. And the reality is it'll be in continuity if it sells well enough anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm just saying they could have easily just put the question out.
Yeah.
And if anyone asked if it was continuity, just go, I don't know.
It could also be a selling tactic, too. Like, maybe you're more likely to pick up a Black Label book because you have an idea of what you're going to get from it than you would be to just pick up a question
Totally.
book.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a number of super chats we want to get into. Louis Lombardi says, wanted to send you guys some bucks for being part of turning me back into comics. Well, thank you very much, man. Welcome back. You've also turned me towards things I'd normally not read, like DC, Saga, Conan. Yeah,
and Saga.
I'm happy to hear that, man. Going to Emerald City Comic Con next year. Thanks for keeping it up.
Great.
Well, enjoy. It's a great show.
It really is.
See every inch of it and really go the multiple days. It's a really, really great show.
Absolutely.
You're going to enjoy it. And Emerald City, man. I love being in Seattle.
Yeah.
Jamie Wild says, hey, did you guys read the Black Label question book from last week? Love it. Was wondering your thoughts on it. Yeah, we reviewed it last week more in depth, but not too much. The art felt more like... The art and the writing and the story felt like it was just the question, but End of Days. Like Daredevil End of Days, but with the question in it. But it's also very much like a continuation of the last run of Question, Vic Sage's Question. It felt like a 90s book. It felt very much like a 90s comic. Like a lost, gritty, no one's paying attention, so let's just do what we can 90s book about the question. So if you're looking for that, I'd say pick it up. As if Siad helping us out, thank you very much. So excited.
I'll get to it. I did
Says, what's more infuriating, WB Suits not knowing what to do with Superman or Disney Suits not knowing what to do with Deadpool? The Superman one, because Superman, there's a million templates, and we don't know like what they're going to do, whereas with Deadpool, inevitably they'll just do it. Because, as I've always said, Marvel will do it as long as it makes money. And Deadpool is just money on the table.
Yeah.
Disney will figure it out because for some reason, even though they have more money than anything in the universe, they'd love a little bit more. And so if there's a little bit money left on the table with Deadpool's name on it and they technically own it, they're gonna take the money.
Yeah, and I think for me it's more frustrating with Superman because he's supposed to be a tentpole character.
Yeah.
And so like if you can't figure out the pillars of what's supposed to be supporting
your universe or your publishing line or your superhero world, then what the hell are you doing?
Exactly. And Deadpool being a fourth world breaking character gives him more of an opportunity for them to mess it up a little bit and still fix it.
It's easier to just, what do you do with Deadpool? You put him in the next movie. That's what you do.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter.
Because it doesn't matter. Nobody's asking.
So for me, it's more frustrating. Although, let's be honest, I loved like what Ryan Reynolds did with the character, and so like if they screw that up, that naturally is going to be frustrating.
Change the actor, but
it's more frustrating for me with Superman and their like nervousness about the character.
Did you see Neil Gaiman's tweet about it?
No.
Because there was a big tweet about it today. In fact, they were saying that basically DC Warner Brothers doesn't know how to make Superman relevant. And I'm like, what a dumb old argument. But Neil Gaiman said he doesn't have to be relevant; he has to be inspiring.
High five, Neil. Like internet high five.
Yeah. My pitch was just take the book for the man who has everything. No, I'm sorry. Take the book, What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way. Call Brad Bird. Keep Henry Cavill, make that movie.
There you go.
That's all you need to do to make it relevant while also being exactly what Superman needs to be.
Yes.
Because all the people who love Zack Snyder and on a harder edge Superman are going to love that scene where he like goes hard, and you know what? Like, it's going to work. Like, trust me. Anyway, so it is frustrating. Thank you. Silver Cricket, have you given Kelly Thompson's Deadpool a chance?
I have. I talked about it last week. I read it. I loved it. It's like a book written for me. It has Deadpool. It has Kelly Thompson's writing. It has Chris Bocciolo's art. And Elsa Bloodstone was in it.
Yeah.
And talk about monsters.
And a baby shark.
And Baby Shark. But, like, not the song.
No.
An actual adorable one.
Right.
Who I'm just like, where's that QMX figure? Because QMX would be the perfect line to make Jeff.
I'm still waiting for the QMX, like, Gwenpool figure. Because there is this really, really great Gwenpool figure. I think Heather Antos has it.
Yeah.
And I've almost bought it, but it's just too expensive. But, like, I would like it. Lewis Southard says, great show as always. Opinions on Grant Morrison making fun of modern day DC and Dark Stars. Thank you very much for asking. If you're not familiar, the upcoming Dark Stars book, I think that's issue 2 of 3.
Right. Of
the Green Lantern book, Black Stars. It's actually Black Stars. The idea here being, it's an alternate reality where, like, reality's been changed using the Wish Machine, and the Green Lantern Corps has been replaced by Black Stars, which is like a made-up thing. In this story, Hal Jordan, Black Star, goes to Earth to like get him. Yeah. And I guess the removal of Green Lanterns in this universe. Earth is basically the same, only the Justice League Watchtower has like corporate logos on it and everything like that. Sure. Like they've sold out. which is wow. And then you have this sequence in which like Hal Jordan's talking to Superman, and Superman says, this is the 21st century. We really have to start worrying about our mental health issues before we can actually solve any problems.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, shots fired at Tom King, Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah.
Then it goes further, and he says, we have to worry about like the Depresso-verse that we just discovered, and how yet another big, stupid cosmic entity has to blah, blah, blah. And that's a huge shot at Scott Snyder's Justice League run. And it's and I read recently about that Morrison said that he's using the Black Stars book to poke fun at himself and modern comics in general. I have yet to see him making fun of himself. I have only to see that Grant Morrison is taking shots at the things and the directions he thinks DC shouldn't be going
Well,
in.
maybe he was trying to poke fun at himself in terms of, you know how, like, he obviously has a lot of deep lore dives and stuff like that, and people, like, a lot of people respond to that, and a lot of people don't respond to that.
Yes.
Like, so maybe in terms of the way he was writing the book, he thought he was doing it up, like,
a send up of himself, where
right?
He's like, like you're reading it, and you're reading it as though you're reading like Multiversity, but it's also him making fun of it because everyone's talking on the nose.
But there are some people who, you know, think like putting up pink flamingos a joke on their lawn until suddenly they actually really like it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the whole thing is pink flamingos that people put on their lawns. I knew, like, you know, if you're a big fan of irony or being a hipster, like, you'll put the pink flamingos on your lawn because you're like, lol, that's hilarious, but eventually you have a yard full of pink flamingos, you are that person you're making fun of.
Yeah.
I know, for example, as a kid, I remember as a high schooler, I used to hate the term dude and sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people would be like, sweet. I'm like, dude, sweet.
Yeah.
Now I say it all the time. And I said it all the time within about 6 months of making fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be that Morrison's trying to set himself up, but it turns out just being Grant Morrison.
Yeah, like he's like,
just
oh,
writing.
crap.
Oh, oops, I'm only just looking mean-spirited and making fun of my colleagues.
Exactly.
That being said, I'm sure that Morrison's like days at DC are numbered anyway, and his days doing these kinds of comics are kind of like wrapping up. So maybe he's just like, you know, taking shots and then leaving. Like, it could be he's just being really petty.
Right.
The fact that the Final Crisis is what it is, and the editors are the vampires that are destroying everything is like not that element isn't lost on me in terms of Grant Morrison's not above being mean-spirited and just attacking his people who like pay his bills or who are colleagues of his.
Right.
So yeah, I could see that being just him being like, the dark multiverse, lame.
Right. Is he Irish or British?
Scottish.
Okay.
Neither.
I was like, I don't want to, like, because, like, nobody, like, everybody wants to, obviously, be made sure that they know where they're from. I just literally could not remember what he sounded like.
No, Garth Ennis is Irish. Alan Moore is British.
Yeah, Alan Moore I knew. That one I knew. It's
that's why, I think that's why Alan Moore really doesn't like Grant Morrison.
That's
not
possible.
because they, like, have an intellectual problem.
Right.
It's because he's a Scot.
Right, but I mean, like, I wonder if Morrison's, like, send up of others and like his mean-spiritedness doesn't come from just, you know, cultural differences.
Right.
It's just like, no, it's just what it is, man.
Right. We do this all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Like, you're supposed to do it back at me, and I'll just get you back.
Right. Aha. Except no one's making fun of him. Except us. And, like, he's not going to watch our channel and be like, oh, look at me. That'd be great, though. Yeah, no. You kidding me?
I would watch easily 30 minutes of him making fun of us.
Yeah,
like,
doing back issues
of
and
us.
it's just him and, like, two of his friends.
Yeah.
It's him, Neil Gaiman, and friggin' Mark Miller, and they're just like, ha ha ha.
Yeah. I mean, it would hurt inside, but like,
it would, yeah.
I would totally watch it.
I would applaud. It's not gonna happen. Eddie Eckenberg says, "Who's crazier, Morrison, Miller, or Moore?" Miller's not crazy. He's just, you know, he just buys in his own hype. Morrison takes drugs to find his like muse, and Moore dug a cave in his basement to do magic in it. So I'll let you decide which one's the craziest one. Unless you're a magician or a wizard.
There's nothing wrong with wizards.
I love all three of them, and I'm glad of their own brand of crazy.
Yeah.
So we're lucky to have his magic cave.
Yep.
But anyway, what else we got?
Oh, I'm gonna very briefly chat about a book. It's another Black Label. I just want.
I remember pitching this to you. What do you think?
You didn't pitch it to me.
Yeah, I was like, you should check out The Last God.
You mentioned it to me, but I already had it on my list.
Oh, fine.
Uh-huh.
Do you like it?
The Last God. This is chapter 2 of the book, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, with art by Riccardo
Federici.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. This book is high fantasy.
No.
Don't mistake it. I mean, like, all right, it's more fantasy than you're finding in most books right now that are coming out of DC.
Wow, I thought you were reading a
particular.
Ribic book.
No.
I really thought it was Ribic again.
Right? Nope. No, it's actually, like, this artist actually does a really good job of, like, doing kind of more standard-looking comic book work like you see here, where it still has an illustrative quality, but and then mixing later on with, like, either throwbacks or, like, we need to be in another mind frame here, like, this is a throwback, this is a memory kind of panel where it's definitely more illustrative. If you like fantasy,
you're gonna like this.
If you like Lord of the Rings and body horror, then you're gonna like this, because that's how it's pitched. That's the pitch. It's like Lord of the Rings with body horror. I find it to be a fascinating book, but I know it's not for everybody, so I'm really not going to go into it, because literally this just throws you into it, where it's just like, hey, here are some names, here's some lore of a place you've never heard of. Enjoy. Like, it's that kind of thing. And I'm like, I'm down. I'm down for it completely. But I also recognize that this may not be for everybody. But the fact is that it is a black label book that doesn't have Batman in it is yet another reason why I like to support this type of thing. And you get cool images like this.
That is cool.
Yeah, it's actually creepy. It's like this, like, plant creaturey monster god thing that, like, skewers people and then can talk through them, but it's like absorbing them, and like they're going to the void. And
like the alien from Independence Day
who grabs Brett Spiner's neck.
Yes, except they actually, like, puncture.
Them,
and like fill them with vines, and
That's
then like
cool.
and then like as it's happening, like they don't want it to happen, but then they get to a point where they're just like, no, it's cool. The void is beautiful, and I want to go to it. And it's like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. You don't.
That's fair. Last God.
But again, if you're looking for a fantasy book that is, again, mature, has that kind of Die feel to it with less modern influences, because Die definitely has modern influences on it, and it's very cool, and I love it very much. If you just want fantasy, I'd look here.
Cool. What else you got?
What else do I got? Real quick, I want to mention that I read this book simply on its name and promise of
week.
vampires. Philadelphia, written by Rodney Barnes with art by Jason Sean Alexander, is a story of a family of essentially cops. Like, the dad's like a detective in Philadelphia. The son is a cop in Baltimore, living in the shadow of his father. His father was a really bad dad. Like, he, kind of beat on his son a little bit. He wasn't really there for him, that kind of thing. His dad dies in the line of duty, and he has to go up and he has to bury him. Right. And he's basically just like, cool, maybe now I can just live my own life, have my own career without you. And then he has this moment where he's like, you know what? Like, maybe I should solve his last case. Really stick it to him. Like, really stick it to him. So he finds his dad's journal, because his dad never, like, opened up or talked to anybody. And he discovers that his dad was, like, working this case where, like, a bunch of people had died, and, like, seemingly there was something more going on with it. And, like, the coroner mentioned that, like, yellow fever might be involved with it, because, like, they have this body that's, like, covered in bite marks. But, like, human bite marks. And when I say, like, human bite marks, I mean, like, like dental impression sort of bite marks, where it's like that's like an uncomfortable amount of bite marks.
Yes.
Like, that is not an acceptable amount.
They should have called this book.
An uncomfortable amount of bite marks. That'll be my vampire novel.
Yes.
But that, like, not only does it seem to be that there are yellow fever strains within the body, but the body's also exsanguinated, and, like, there's no blood at the scene of the crime.
Right.
And so, like, oh, like, maybe they moved it. Oh, it required too much precision. There wasn't enough time. That kind of thing, right? And, like, all the bodies have this yellow fever, and isn't that freaking weird or
I guess
whatever?
because they're old, because the vampires are old and they're inoculated.
Well, then they drop some other science on us. Oh, by the way, there's a moment where the cop, like, the dad and the coroner have a, like, oh crap, something else is going on here, where, like, late at night, all of a sudden the, like, mortuary, like, the door where they're storing all the bodies, like, there's all this banging going on. Yeah, so she calls the cop down, and he's like, I'm gonna open the door. She's like, but why? Why would you do that? But the sun's coming up. And so when they open the door, everybody's back where they should have been. And he's like, cool. So he ends up looking up, he finds some additional information about, like, the Sons of the Republic. They're, like, this gang running around. He learns more about it, that they were from the 50s, and, like, they had a whole bunch of big ideas and stuff like that, and they, like, believed in the philosophy of John Adams.
Okay.
We're bringing John Adams into this.
Okay. He was cool.
Yeah, right? He was cool. Like, I think he went to France or something. He went someplace.
Yeah. France.
And he came back with what was believed to be yellow fever.
Oh. Great.
And so, like, now, like, it's like, is John Adams a vampire?
Yeah, is that the idea here?
I don't know. He goes to the gravesite. There's like a crack in one of the graves, like in his tomb.
Oh.
Because it's up in Massachusetts. Basically, he's listening to hear if there's anything. Anyway, inevitably the dad dies because he gets tricked into going into a room where there's a whole bunch of vampires, right? Like the vampires figure out that he's onto them, and so they kill him.
Okay.
The son then is like on the trail of what's going on after reading this journal. He's like, my dad was crazy, but I'm gonna solve this case. I'm gonna prove to everybody that like I'm as good a cop, if not a better cop, than my dad was, and then I can go on with my life. Cool.
Sure.
He goes back to the scene of the crime where he finds naturally like he looks up and he sees that like there are legit vampires here and like everything's real bad.
Right.
So he makes a run for it, and then he decides to go and to his dad's grave. And he's just like, all right, wait a minute. What if he got bit? And so when he opens up the coffin, his dad's in there. And he's just like, what took you so long? And I'm like, all right.
That's cool.
I'm in. It's a hard-boiled kind of cop story, and there's vampires and family stuff. You know me and family stuff, guys. I'm all about that. So if you like vampires, I guess this is for you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know who was asking for this, but I dig it.
Fair enough.
I dig it.
That's cool.
I also read Basketful of Heads #2. It continues to be an excellent book.
Good.
It's the Joe Hill, one of the Hill House comics. It's the one that Joe is writing.
Yeah.
With art by Leo Max. The art's fantastic. It fits so well. It's so creepy. We get to see the axe in full swing.
Cool.
This is my joke, everybody.
Yeah. These are the jokes, folks.
And there they are. And here he is.
Yeah.
Pausing for cats. Basketball of Heads has been this like 1980s comic where like folk were trapped on an island,
and it's like an homage book.
It is an homage book, but then also so it's like not only is there this axe that's talking to people, and there are these like criminals who are loose, who by the way beat the hell out of that girl's boyfriend, the like deputy cop.
Yeah.
But one of them stays behind because they think that she's still around. They get her. They're like gonna hurt her. She grabs the axe. She chops the guy's head off.
Cool.
And the head's still alive and still talking to her.
Oh no!
So she picks up a basket that's nearby and puts the head in there. And so like I think she's gonna be
the wielder of the basket.
The wielder of the axe and the basket. And like that's really cool. But we also get the like not only are things bad as it was, right? Because the fact that they there's like, you know, these individuals out there, but there's a storm coming. Everybody.
No,
and, like,
a perfect storm.
It is a perfect storm of things that are happening. Where we see this fantastic like set of panels where we watch like the ocean like coming in.
Yeah. And
so
take the bridge.
It's like nature's also fighting us in this. It's a man versus nature kind of thing. And we see that a road is washed out.
What's that book by Stephen King?
The one where they're stuck in like the snowstorm and Legion. It's not the perfect storm. It's Storm of the Century.
Yes, it is. So it's Storm of the Century as well.
It is kind of like that. But don't forget his dad, you know what I mean? I love this.
Yeah, I know.
Like this two-way thing. And then the entire island's out of power. So like Hill's really setting up all of like the tropes in a sense, but in a really fun way.
Cool.
I really like this book. This was the book that I was reading it, and all of a sudden like I was like, I hate when this happens, where like I count all the pages, or I check the page count, and it's a totally normal length book, but I just ran through it because the pacing was so good that I was like, I want more.
A great Bendis book is like that. Sometimes Bendis also just like shortchanges you pages.
Yeah, that has happened.
I feel like that too.
I checked that.
That's awesome.
Where I was just like, damn it, like that's the end of it. There's no more. Okay, fine.
Yeah. In the super chats, Philip Croy says, "Hat's a good look, Sal. Thank you very much.
Right?
I employ this hat on occasion when we do the shows. I think it's on our God Loves Man Kills episode of Back
There you
Issues.
go.
I don't remember, but I wear it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The perfect storm of the century.
That's not what it is.
So, do I have any more books?
I think you do, but like I think your book's way more exciting. Than,
I'll talk about that
than my
later.
book.
Yeah, that's fine.
I read a 2099 book.
I know, that's I can't believe I forgot about this one.
Guess which one I read, everybody?
Oh, they don't have to. It's right there on the screen.
I read Conan the Barbarian, 2099 by Jerry Duggan, with art by
Roger Antonio.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. This is actually like almost a one and done.
Oh no. Do they say it's going to be continued?
It says like the end ?
Okay. So yeah, no, then it may be the last one unless it sells well.
Exactly. So
what's the deal with Conan 2099?
So what is the deal with Conan 29? Everybody's wondering it. Nobody's wondering. I I wondered because I was like, how could this be possible? We start off literally with a book I'd rather be reading. Not to say I didn't enjoy this.
No, but this is dope.
At first I wasn't enjoying it so much. By the end I really dug it. I want this book.
Yeah.
I want, freaking
Triumph and Torment 2.
but with Conan.
Yeah.
Like, where is this book and how can I get to it?
Right.
This tells how, like, when Conan came to the modern age, like, he still was dealing with wizards and warlords. How is this possible? And it's like, literally, I love that. It's like, wizard, warlord, Conan.
Right.
Secondary wizard who's also a warlord.
Yes. Oh my god, that's awesome.
It's a spectacular panel full of promise, but it doesn't matter because we're in the 2099 universe in which Conan is a king.
Okay.
It's King Conan in 2099. He took control of an area.
Oh.
But those, like, some of his subjects are against him.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to kill him, and they're like, no, hail King
Tlaloc.
Tlaloc.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it really doesn't ring, so you can't be king. All right? If it's not, no. If your people can't say your own name. Conan, of course, knows that this is going down, comes on in, and says, like, nay, I think not. And while he's slaying those around him, first of all, he shakes loose someone's, like, laser sword.
Yeah.
I hate using that word.
Me too.
But what is that?
That's a laser sword. That's a
laser
sword made
sword.
of laser.
Exactly. But he then suddenly turns to no one and says, like, shut up! I'm not speaking to you. And I'm like, who is he talking to? I'm like, are we doing, like, a Red Sonja here? We are not. We find out that, like, what's going on? Is Conan crazy? Like, what happened? It's like, hey, hang on, here's what happened. Years before, when Conan was ruling, like, he took over and people came to his coronation and offered him gifts, and much like in Sleeping Beauty, someone amongst them was not there to give a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they put him to sleep. No, I'm kidding. They offer him something, and they're like, here, for a good king. And Conan immediately is like, nah, I know who you are. Like, you're Morgan Le Fay.
Oh.
And Doom's looking for you. And he and I
have a deal.
Have an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Conan and Doom have an agreement. It's like, Doom was like, okay, I'll probably be able to take Conan in at one point, but he doesn't stop either. So maybe I'll just let this. He's very happy with what he has.
Yeah.
Conan's happy with
and
what
doesn't
he
want
has.
more.
No, it's fine. So, like, he's like, you got to get out of here. Get out of my kingdom. Get out. I don't want you here. And, like, she's old. She's past her prime.
Sure.
By the way, Morgan Le Fay getting a lot of play lately.
Yeah.
Anyway, Conan tries to drive her out. Instead, she opens up this little box she brought him, and, like, demon skeletons come flying out.
Okay.
And he's like, I know how to deal with demons. It's fine. I got this. And he goes to kill her, and she's like, you can't kill me. That's not gonna happen. And he does. He just kills her. He just kills her, but she curses him.
Oh no!
And that's like an ongoing thing with Conan.
Yeah,
Conan gets cursed. She curses him that says that, like, hey, you will live until the sun burns the earth under your feet, and I'm gonna live in your mind.
Oh.
So she's gonna try to take him over from the inside out, and then, like, use his body, basically.
Sure.
So, like, she's with him constantly, so everyone started thinking Conan was crazy.
Yeah.
And so, like, Conan's lands used to be lush, and then things did not work out in 2099. And so then finally he's like, all right, I gotta fix this. This has gotta stop. So inevitably, like, he leaves his kingdom behind. He's just like, I can't. This is not for me. Like,
right.
I can't help you people anymore. This place is dead. So,
yeah.
like, I would do what I'm gonna do and go wander and find a better life for yourself. So says Conan, goodbye. And Conan, like, leaves them there, and they're like, okay.
Right.
Presumably Doom's gonna step in. So Conan wanders, and, like, he wanders over these desert plains with, like, skulls and bones everywhere, and inevitably he sees a comet. And he's like, oh! And, like, they talk about chance and fortune and such. And so then he goes to check out what is in the comet that has landed, or what looks like is a comet. Conan's, like, shocked. He's like, I once knew a woman that was like you, and it's one of the Nova Corps.
Oh.
And I know, I thought it was going to be like
I thought it was going to be Mjolnir.
Oh, like Thor.
Yeah.
Actually, originally I thought it was going to be Angela.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, yeah, like,
yeah,
I was like, oh, it's Angela.
It's a Nova.
It's a
All
Nova.
Right.
And so, like, the Nova asks him to return his helm to the Nova Corps because that is information vital to help an impending annihilation that's coming.
Oh, no.
So,
Annihilation 2099.
Right? So Conan's like...
No, I'm going to put it on.
Well, he does.
Yeah.
Conan Conan like takes his sword and fights the wolves that come for him.
Cool.
Because there's like blood in the air now,
Sure.
and so like Conan fights some badass wolves because it's Conan. And even though we're $20.99, it's supposed to be cyberpunk. I still buy it.
Yeah.
I still buy it. He's got like robot fingers around his neck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with this. Freaking whatever. So yeah, Conan picks up the helmet and he takes it and he puts it on, and so we have like Nova Conan for a little bit, but he's just really wearing it. And he's like, he's doing something. He's working on something. He's like traveling. He has like a place where he's going to go. You see him take a bit of dirt with him.
Mm-hmm. Those look like Stark armor fingers.
Oh, they kind of do. They kind of do. I assume one of them's at least a Doombot.
Yeah.
I bet.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least. Conan goes to a citadel. He like runs into some like people who are like desperate.
Sure.
And I think they're on the West Coast at this point. That's where they are.
Okay.
And so like Morgan mentioned something about the West Coast Avengers. That last time she saw them was at their executions here, and I'm like, man, this world sucks.
Yeah.
Inevitably, what he's looking for is the Nova Tower.
Okay.
But he doesn't want to let Morgan Le Fay know that.
Yeah.
So he like finds his way into there, and like Morgan's like, no, go back to your lands. Like I'm supposed to like I'm gonna wear you down. I'm gonna take over.
Mm-hmm.
Conan's wandering. He has not been seen by many at all, so like he's certainly not on anybody's like good list essentially.
Right.
The public eye finds him, tries to take him down. It's Conan. He makes a break for it. He ends up like climbing on spaceships and like, you know, transports and other such things. Gets into the Citadel, finds that it's been ransacked. But that's cool. Like he climbs his way up a elevator shaft and ends up in a room that has not been ransacked and is still working. The helmet allows him to go in. It IDs him as a Nova.
Right.
And so then they're like, hey, this planet's been quarantined. Would you like some exfiltration? And like Conan's like, huh. And it opens up a room where there's a dead Nova inside.
Okay.
And like Conan's like, all right on. Like, cool. Like, and Morgan's like, oh, you came here just for this? And he's dead. Ha 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 ha. And he's like, yeah, no, it's fine. I got this. The room is like, hey, would you like to leave?
Right.
Would you like to evacuate? He's like, I would.
Yeah.
My helmet's damaged. Would you fix it? He's like, yeah, put it on the pedestal. So it repairs him. He pulls the skeleton out, but like he does it gently.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, King Conan has a little soft spot for the Nova Corps. That's nice.
Yeah.
It tells him to strap in. He's like, no, I'm cool. He like sits in the top of the building, takes off, and like Conan's like, yeah, I'm leaving. And she's like, that wasn't part of the plan. You're not supposed to do that. And then Conan goes into his pouch and pulls out the dirt that he grabbed.
Yeah.
And he starts scattering it amongst his feet, and he tells the ship to go towards the sun. He's like, I'm gonna burn us because you're not living in my head anymore. I will die here. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like it's cool. I don't mind.
That's awesome.
And she's like, no, that's not how this is supposed to go down. The ship won't take him there, by the way.
No.
They're like, that will kill you. And he's like, I'm infected. Like, quarantine protocol activated. We'll go to the sun. And like Conan is like, I like King Conan because King Conan is less brash, obviously, than Conan. And like King Conan in any timeline apparently has learned from his many adventures. And I love this like very knowing glance at him where he's just like, yeah, no, like you thought you had me, but no one makes a slave of Conan. No one. And I'm like, that's really badass. He puts on the helmet, and then like she basically burns out of his head because that was literally it. The earth at his feet is burning.
Yeah.
And so therefore she is gone. The ship like completely like disintegrates. He mentions Crom one last time, a name he's not said in many years. And then he's just like, well, that's fine. Like Crom may be sitting on his mountain, the mountain god that he is, but if he wants to look upon Conan now, he'll have to look up. And I was like, that's freaking Duggan, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And
but
Conan,
he's wearing the helmet.
He's wearing the helmet, so he's protected. And so now Conan's in space, and we see that Conan will begin his wandering yet again.
But in the stars.
And that's a story for another time.
And
I was like, this is badass. Literally not anything I would have imagined.
I can't believe they got away with doing
this. But that book was just incredible. Like,
yeah.
I don't care if it's, like, not really related to 2099 at all.
No,
I don't care if, like, this has no bearing on where 29 will go. If we ever see this again, this was just a really cool story that Duggan wanted to tell that took Conan and was able to tell something that didn't end up in, like, standard King Conan.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I
love that.
I loved this book way more than I could have ever anticipated. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
Nice. I love that. Recommended. Man.
100%. Like, if you're gonna read 129.99 book, I would make it that one.
That's
honestly, it was just so like excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're good as far as super chats go.
I think so too.
So, jumping into the last book of the night, we're going to talk about Tales from the Dark Multiverse: Infinite Crisis from James Tynion IV, with art by Aaron Lopresti. This is justice for Blue Beetle. That's all I can say. The Dark Multiverse Infinite Crisis is literally just James Tynion IV fixing Infinite Crisis until he doesn't. Obviously, because this is a dark what-if book, it's never going to have a happy ending, but it almost does for a little while, and it's kind of fun.
That's nice.
The idea here being that we set up things where Maxwell Lord, of course, has Ted Kord right where he wants him. He's like, listen, you could join me, or I'll kill you. And in the original continuity, of course, Ted Kord says no. Maxwell Lord kills him. In this one, of course, the switcheroo is Ted Kord says yes, and then he kills Maxwell Lord. And he takes over. And instead, because Ted is smart and a tech guy, he communicates with Brother Eye and finds out that Brother Eye is sentient. And so he has, like, respect for Brother Eye. And so he and Brother Eye work together to kind of, like, fix all the problems of the DC universe. And so, ultimately, like, Ted is kind of, like, corrupted by the power of Brother Eye. He kind of fails that, like, test from Ex Machina, where he, like, you know, it's not like a lesser writer would have made Ted and Brother Eye, like, lovers or something, but instead, because it's Tynion, it's just Ted Kord respects and admires Brother Eye and wants to, like, and believes in Brother Eye's attempt at working, you know, for a brighter future.
Mm-hmm.
So Kord basically just kind of, like, fixes all the problems. He uncovers all the mysteries and secrets of Infinite Crisis and what will behold of it. And so he solves one problem after another, much to the chagrin and annoyance of Batman and the Justice League. Of course, because Batman was like, Brother Eye was my creation. He was supposed to figure this out. You know, he's supposed to solve all his problems, but now he's working against me.
Right.
And it turns out that Kord is using Brother Eye to solve not just domestic problems, but also spacefaring problems. Brother Eye creates, you know, like a kind of protection around the Earth itself. And so Checkmate kind of, like, not only solves all of Earth's problems, but also solves the galactic issues as well. And it's like, that's kind of fun.
Right.
What a neat idea. Batman, of course, has a problem with this because he's not in charge and controlling everything because it's Infinite Crisis Batman. And Kord is like, no. Like, all right, Batman, the jig is up.
Wow.
Like, basically, I can ruin your life by telling everyone who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get in my way.
Oh.
And Batman's like, So then Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman team up in that sequence where Wonder Woman was supposed to have killed Maxwell Lord, but didn't.
Okay.
So instead, you know, they're having a different conversation, this one being about Blue Beetle and his whole control of everything. Of course, Blue Beetle discovers Alexander Luthor and Superman Prime and Superboy Prime.
Yeah.
And so he basically uncovers Luthor's manipulation of Superboy Prime and then manipulates him into working for Kord. So then Superboy Prime kills Alexander Luthor and then enacts the plan that kind of like was the Infinite Crisis plot, but with the manipulation of Kord and Brother Eye.
Right.
So Kord's like, the Justice League is going to be the problem because he asks, what's it called? He asks Brother Eye what the real like threat of reality is, and Brother Eye's like, the Justice League, and Kord's like, no, the Justice League is good, like they're trying, man, and they're like, nope, they're never gonna believe you, they're never gonna listen to you, they're never gonna trust you,
right?
And
right.
they're pointless battles. Basically, them being a superhero comic book is gonna be the problem, and so Kord is like, I can't argue with that logic. So then Kord uses Brother Eye to basically enact a kind of like dark future's end kind of thing, where he meets up with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in their kind of like the scene where they were gonna all kind of like fight each other and argue with each other about like what to do about Maxwell Lord. Instead, Beetle takes on the Trinity, while Superboy Prime takes on like the Titans. Prime goes nuts because he's an asshole, and he kills like most of them. Cord merges with Brother Eye because he's not powerful enough to take on Superman by himself.
Sure, that's really creepy looking.
Yeah, and so he becomes a kind of cyborg of his own, a Brother Eye cyborg, a Brother Cyborg.
There you go.
And he touches all of them, and they're like, "We're not gonna listen to you." And he's like, "That's fine. I'm just gonna I just use nanobots to take over." And so they take over the Trinity, and basically Cord ends up assimilating the whole world. There's a subplot with Booster Gold, how Booster Gold is like back from the dead and unhappy with what Beetle's doing, and he's like the last known survivor of the Earth, and he's like, "I gotta stop you," and Brother Eye acts without Cord's permission and kills Booster Gold.
Oh.
And you're like, oh, and there's the tragedy of the end of Blue and Gold, where Brother Eye assassinates Booster Gold, and now alone on a planet full of like mindless drones perpetrated by Brother Eye is like, "Let me take over fully and let me handle it all." And Blue Beetle's like, "I can't argue with you. Yeah, that sounds good." It's very like, it's almost like Little Shop of Horrors, but it's really like, it's dark, but it's earned and it's ridiculous. And basically, the universe is safe thanks to Ted Cord, but at what cost? At the cost of all of Earth's heroes.
Right, that's like every AI's like,
yeah.
you know,
Wet dream.
Yeah, like, you know, oh, like I have to protect you from hurting or from being hurt, but like you might hurt yourself, so I better kill you.
Yep. So it plays with the premise in a very, very fun way, while also not completely frustratingly disrespecting continuity.
Right.
So like it's fun. It's a fun, silly indulgence of like your baser, darker instincts. It's a lot of fun. I would recommend it because it's also an homage to Infinite Crisis, so you're like, "Hey, look at that! I remember that. That's fun."
Cool.
So I play with that a little bit. So enjoy that book because it's fun. And of course, Tempest, whatever the hell, is like, "Well, I'm still going to have to build my," and my guess is that when the next crisis happens, Tempest Fugonaut will assemble a Justice League made of all the heroes that emerge from the Dark Multiverse. So it's going to be like, you know, Lois Lane Superwoman and Ted Cord Brother Eye Super
That seems like
guy.
a big mistake.
I know, but like they'll hand wavy explain that like it's not going to be really that big of a deal. But that's my expectation of this silly experiment.
Okay.
Also, there's a weird like art decision in this book, which I don't know if I want to get into too much, but I will say like the weight fluctuations of Uatu in the original continuity. Uatu used to look like a big fat bald guy, like an old man, and then they were like, "No, what if he was a big baby?" And so Uatu's fluctuated, and their weird just like drawing of Tempest Fugonaut is the same way. Where like sometimes he has like a big chin and no neck, and sometimes he's like a buff guy, and I'm
honestly,
like, are you playing with like the design of Fugonaut the same way you played with the way they played with the design of Uatu?
Well, it's funny because like when you first pulled this up, I was like,
who the hell is that?
Who's that guy?
Yeah,
and then I was like, oh wait, that's
supposed
him.
to be that stupid guy, but it's not, like, because doesn't look like him at all.
It's very different.
Yeah, and I think that's like it's my way of like no prizing the explanation of why it looks totally different. But whatever. It's silly and fun.
Okay.
I guess check it out. Anyway.
I guess. I don't know.
You know, it's just the thing is, the issue is fun. The frustrating part is reading this book or any of the Tales from the Dark Multiverse and then remembering like a third of the way through, like, oh yeah, that's right. It has to have a bad ending.
Well, yeah. Because it's the Depressoverse.
Right, it's the Depressoverse. Oh my god. I think we should start calling the Dark Multiverse the Depressoverse from now on.
Well, we didn't even coin it.
No, that's a Grant Morrison thing.
Exactly.
Love it. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, let's recommend some books that are coming out this week we think you should pick up.
Yeah, you should do that first.
Yeah.
Before me.
There's a new Spider-Man coming out. If you like Spider-Man and you like 2099, it's still playing with that. I don't know how many times I'm going to be able to recommend Amazing Spider-Man anymore, but like, you know, because it's all the same crap and nothing is blowing my mind except for like Patrick Gleason doing art, and maybe Patrick Gleason should start like co-writing this shit so that it actually ends up being satisfying.
Okay.
Because it's kind of not anymore. It's just not. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just it's that Nick Spencer curse of oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's a halfway execution.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's frustrating.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too. That's how 2099 Alpha was. There's Annihilation tie-ins. I'm not going to bother with that. Daredevil is out. It's great. Daredevil number 14 from Zdarsky. Keep reading that. Marauders number 3 looks kind of fun, I guess. I'm not going to argue with that. And X-Men number 3.
I was like, X-Men number 3, what are you doing?
And X-Men number 3 is coming out.
Yeah.
There's also another book that I think you might recommend.
And there's dinosaurs on the cover.
I know.
Well, at least on one of the covers.
Maybe. Well, they're going to the Savage Land.
Okay.
So what do you got? I know you have a few.
Oh, Conan Serpent War number 1.
What is this?
I believe this is a Jim Zub comic, but I'm honestly not 100% on that, thanks to the stellar website that I'm on.
Yeah.
And the only reason I say that is 'cause I thought that's what he mentioned to me when we were chatting about it.
Yeah.
That like he was working on something with the Serpent War. I don't know for sure.
That's fair.
But look, here's the thing. I'm still on the Conan train all the way.
Right.
So like, and 2099 weirdly really like, I was like reinvigorated yet again where I'm like, woohoo!
Yeah.
Yes! Like, please, that's amazing. More Conan. You've somehow made it work in the future, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm cool. But he'll be joining forces with Moon Knight.
I know. What?
I'm like, yeah.
That's
that
fun.
works. Because Moon Knight, worships
God.
Khonshu.
Yeah.
And Conan hates Crom.
Right.
So, maybe he could, chat with Moon Knight about, like, it's okay to not,
really like your god.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to recommend Die number 10.
Yep.
It's coming out. Literally love this book. D&D fantasy world. So, looks awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I got.
Also, Old Man Quill is ending.
Oh, is it? I'm so far behind.
Oh, yeah, you're like on issue 3. But, like...
on that book.
But Old Man Quill's ending, so maybe it's time to go
So
check
pick up
it
the
out.
trade. Like,
Yeah.
now's the time for me to grab the trade. Maybe I'll check out Ghost Rider 2099.
I think you should.
Just because...
Yeah.
Just because Conan was so good, let me, be hurt by how not stellar that one is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
And
I don't know. Maybe it's going to be great.
We talked about it a little bit, so I guess I'll recommend it, but it's Green Lantern Black Stars number 2 comes out. So I guess I'll recommend that book because of the shade being cast by Grant Morrison.
Yes. Also, if you're sticking around for the Dreaming number 16 will be coming out next week if you've been on that. For me, my Spurrier preferred book right now.
That's fair.
Is Constantine or Hellblazer.
Yeah. If you're looking for Doomsday Clock, don't, because it's supposed to be on the 18th. So we'll see what happened. What year what year they meant.
Yeah, that's whenever.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Not me. But
that's the last one, right?
That's the last one.
Yeah. So hey, if it comes out, that means that they did finish it this year.
Yeah, they did. Wow. They would have. Yeah. I think they are going to get it out at
you
least.
Think?
I think just to save face, they will put it out before 2020.
Wow.
I was just kind of like expecting it to. I expect them to screw it up.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, and there's still time.
They've got a chance.
They got time.
Yeah.
But we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us. Of course, I wanted to give a special thank you to Mr. Sunday Movies for including me in his magnum opus video. If you haven't already watched it, go over to Mr. Sunday Movies and check out his retrospective and analysis of Shadows of the Empire as a cultural impact. It's a really, really fun video. Mm-hmm. And there's also my dopey voice in there. But it's like it's a really, really like thoughtful, intelligent, and in-depth discussion of it as a phenomenon. I'd love to see him make more of those, and it's a really, really fun video. So if you like Mr. Sunday, you're gonna love this. If you're from Mr. Sunday, hopefully you're enjoying your experience watching this channel.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. And a special thank you to our sponsor for today's show, you out there who did use the super chats. We want to thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thanks.
You guys are so thoughtful and so generous. Thank you for that.
Yes, and thanks for being cool with different locations.
Yeah,
This is not normally, if it's the first time you're catching the show, it's not normally shot here. This is where I shoot video game.
Yeah, this is your video game playthrough show, so if you ever want to watch that.
Why it's so heavily themed to that. I apologize. It's very distracting background. Those of you who did notice my God of War statue, thank you. It's a NECA figure. There is no boy with it.
No.
It's just his axe.
That's fine.
His axe girlfriend.
And he comes with a big shield.
Yeah, which falls down constantly, but it's awesome.
It does. But yeah, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys next time with an all-new episode of Off the Rack. I'm Sal.
And I'm Tiffany.
So long, everybody.
Bye, guys.